Prairie Mosaic is funded by the Minnesota Arts and Cultural Heritage Fund with money from the vote of the people of Minnesota on November 4, 2008. The North Dakota Humanities Council, a nonprofit, independent state partner of the National Endowment for the Humanities. The North Dakota Council on the Arts, and by the members of Prairie Public.
Hi, I'm Bob Dambach.
And I'm Barb Gravel. Welcome to Prairie Mosaic, a patchwork of stories about the people and places that contribute to the arts, culture, and history in our region.
On this edition, we'll meet a master woodcarver, visit a unique art studio that feels like home, and relax to the sounds of a musical group who first met in a pastry shop.
The history of Detroit Lakes is interesting and unique, thanks to the many lakes surrounding it that have helped shape and develop the area. You can learn all about that history at the Becker County Historical Society and Museum in downtown Detroit Lakes, Minnesota.
The Becker County Historical Society was founded in 1882 as the Pioneer Settlers Union, so we have a really long history here in the county. The Settlers Union was a group of people. You had to be able to prove that you had settled in Becker County prior to 1872. The county was open for settlement in 1868, and so those very early settlers started to gather their stories, which is pretty amazing really for that early in the history of our area. And so we have all of these written histories and stories of those original settlers, including people who were the first in each township. So they gathered those stories, and they also started to gather artifacts. They actually held their collection in the library, and that group eventually became the Becker County Historical Society in 1943 and opened their first museum in the basement of the Becker County Courthouse. Our collection ranges from objects starting in 1812 and going all the way through about 1980 right now, and we're moving forward past that. The strengths of our collection really are the Native American objects that you can come and see, both Dakota, Lakota, and Ojibwa. And then we also do have some original Pioneer Settlers cabin that has been moved a few times and has wound up here inside the museum. We also have the world's smallest gas station in the basement, which is always a fan favorite for people to come and visit. And the big folk hero of our museum, I guess, is Old Three Legs, which is a wolf that the kids love to come and see. Detroit was a natural place for settlement because of the waterways here. We have two big lakes, we have the Pelican River all kind of converging in one spot. It also was one of the first towns that the railroad hit as it came through, so as a result of that it became a really thriving area as well. And by 1881-82, so about 10 years later, a fellow named John K. West was really interested in promoting the tourist aspect of the lake. He built the Minnesota Hotel, and it's really a luxurious Victorian building, brightly painted. He guaranteed also that you could get from train to hotel to lake in 1 hour or less, which at that time was quite a big deal. He also developed the Pelican River Navigation Company, which was a series of canals, locks, and dams that went from Lake Detroit to Lake Sally and Melissa. So you could literally go from the train station in Detroit Lakes to your cabin at Lake Melissa in about an hour's time, which was pretty phenomenal given the time period that we're talking about. There was also a huge draw because of the ice that came from the lakes.
Ice harvest began in 1887. It lasted until about 1970. That's when Northern Pacific had ice making equipment, so they could make ice on site. But it was an important part of the development of this area because it provided jobs for people during the winter. It was a miserably cold work to be out there on the ice, working in below zero conditions. But up to 110 people would be employed by the Addison Miller Company, harvesting ice for the railroad. And this ice was loaded into boxcars. They would ship up to 4,000 boxcars a winter from Detroit Lakes west. And it provided work for about 6 to 8 weeks, depending on weather conditions and how much ice was needed.
It's really a beautiful place to live, lots of wonderful scenery. You can drive and see everything from a really dense woodland that was once clear cut for timber and is now grown back, all the way over to a really wide open prairie in the very edges of Lake Agassiz. So it's a beautiful natural environment, I think, and along with that has a really interesting natural history. So animals that live here that don't or aren't able to live other places because of that. We have been really a wonderful beneficiary of legacy funding here at the museum. We have traveling exhibits both from the Minnesota Historical Society and the Minnesota Children's Museum. We had a traveling exhibit last fall from the National Museum of the American Indian, part of the Smithsonian, and that is all because of the fact that we have been able to access those legacy funds, which really has enhanced our ability to tell the story of our history here in Becker County. Two men who were in charge of the museum went and looked at this 40 by 80 foot space and measured it and said, oh my goodness, how will we ever fill it up? And now we have about 15,000 square feet of collections and artifacts in our current location. And we house about 20,000 artifacts and 14,000 photographs, along with a full research library and all kinds of interesting things that people could come and see. We are open Tuesday through Saturday from 10 to 4 during the summer months, and then winter from November through March 31st. We're open on Tuesday through Friday from 10 to 4, and we are hours free.
Fred Cogelo's success comes from being a self-described contrarian. With wood as his medium, the Willmar, Minnesota native blends patience, skill, and humor to create his award-winning sculptures.
I think some people are just made to use their hands, and I was always drawn to wood and to tools. This was meant to be my refuge. People drive me nuts. I love them, but they drive me nuts.
Fred's work is really multifaceted. It's high quality, it's an interesting material. He's a well-known Minnesota artist. He's capturing an everyday life in a very hyper-realistic way. People really see the high skill that's involved, so they can appreciate it on kind of a skill level as well as an aesthetic level.
Instead of taking something like clay where you have both the option of putting it on and taking it off readily, with wood you take your material and you pretty much remove it. My father died when I was quite young, but he'd left a fairly well-equipped shop, so I was out there quite often trying to kill myself doing bad things with the table saw. Working with disturbed adolescents, I had to do 1 week of night watch every 6 weeks. After you did your rounds, your main job was to stay awake, and there was a block of wood there that one of the kids had started carving on and had given up after rounding a corner, and I thought I couldn't do any worse, so I went and I took it and came back the next night with some of my father's carving tools as palm chisels, and I was off to the races. They're traditional edge tools. They tend to be gouges of various sorts, and a gouge basically just a U shape. And then there's your V tools, and then your flat tools, which are your chisels, your firmers, and your skews. I designed a number of tools that were manufactured for a while, and I would say designed rather than invented, because basically you modify existing forms. I do photographic studies if it's a realistic thing, but I don't do any modeling in clay or anything else. I don't see the point of that. I figure why do something twice. If I don't know what I want in some particular spot of a composition, I'll oftentimes leave a little extra wood there as I'm roughing things out in case something occurs to me as I'm doing it. So some of the design is usually on the fly. So this thing is titled "Don't Look Like Much of a Horse," and the subtitle is "Yeah, and you ain't no cowpoke neither." And it's my tribute to my late brother. It's an experiment in deep relief. Rules in relief are basically that you try to use as much of the actual depth available as possible for the most important elements and the foreground elements, and that you try not to have the eye object. When you're carving from a log, your problems with the moisture are such that you need to get rid of wood as fast as possible, otherwise it'll all split. The only stable way I know of doing it is to hollow them out. The face is sort of like a landscape, and you try to follow the contours of it. I'm just trying to cheat that line of the lip up just that little bit. Go back and modify this again when it's all said and done. I have more lumber than I'll probably use if I live to be 400 years old, but yet I have this compulsive acquisition disorder, and I can't pass up a good lumber tree of some sort or other. People are fond of referring to me as a master woodcarver, and I'm really not, because I'm not adept at a lot of the furniture carving and decorative arts. There are even a lot of weaknesses in my human figures. The main thing is I try to get enough feeling and character, and these people seem to relate to them somehow.
It would be a mistake to underestimate Fred by saying it's kind of almost a pedantic rural craft or something that's just only about tradition. With the humor and the politics that are in the work, it's actually quite sophisticated.
With carving, it's a lot like getting married. You don't realize the full extent of your commitments until you're well into it. You have to live up to your commitments, or else it's a messy divorce.
When Laura Moe decided to renovate her family home in Pelican Rapids, Minnesota, she knew it wasn't going to be a typical remodel. Her vision was to create several art studios within her home. With the help of friends and lots of hard work, aspiring artists now have a comfortable space to create their art.
The Artist Hub is a place for students and artists to come and create and collaborate, socialize, connect. I've been collecting different art materials and art equipment for many, many years, and I decided to organize it into studios. So I've created a clay area, mosaic area, there's a wood shop area, a painting studio, a floor loom. Soon we'll have a dark room. We also have an area that we're developing for stained glass. It's fun for people to come and go and be able to use the equipment.
I don't know what it's going to be. You know, you never know when you first start out. It's just whatever it turns into. This is like I just fell into the most wonderful dream. It really is just fantastic. I have not done any pottery or any kind of for several years, and I have wanted to get back into this. And so when I found out about this place, I thought this is unbelievable.
The fee would be $15 a day, or you could take it out in sweat equity. So for 1 hour you might want to go and weed, or you might want to paint a wall or leave a sculpture or something like that. Almost like a co-op. That's what I'd like to eventually get to, as self-running co-op of artists. I met Millie Hansen down at a workshop in Fergus Falls for rural arts. I remember just feeling an instant connection with you, and we exchanged business cards, and we've been just conversing ever since then. And I have been so just amazed at how much time you've put in to come and put the loom together and actually loan it to the Artist Hub, and your beautiful art and everything.
Thank you. This kind of a loom is meant for weaving patterns. It's old, as you can see. It's not varnished and in perfect shape like a new loom. It can do a lot more than I'm using it for. I'm just using a foot, and it can weave all the way out to probably 4 feet. I've been doing art since I can remember. It's just really nice. It's a chance to be creative and do what I want to do.
Clay is made from sand and water and...
Constant challenge of funding. I kind of fund all this myself and buy the materials. It's a matter of, you know, how much my paycheck is and how many other jobs I have. I'm part of the Mercantile downtown, and I work on my own artwork and teach.
You take your back of your fingernail and push down and blend it. Yeah, push down and blend into the leaf.
Just seeing the spark and energy and thrill of discovery in a student's eyes. Somebody will ask, what is the key to happiness? And for me, it's to create. Whether it's creating a poem, creating a piece of artwork, creating an area for a plant to grow. I just started printmaking about 3 years ago.
This is called a lithographic poly print. You just take oil-based ink. You could use Sharpie. You could use a Bic pen and draw your design on it. I'm taking some water with some gum arabic on it, and I'm going to roll this ink onto the plate.
And next is printing. There it is.
It's a place where people can come and create, but visual arts attract people. The arts really are the base for good economic development in a city and town.
My tools, basic tools, is a jackknife, and then some things I made myself, some bows with sandpaper on them, and a file, and another little sanding stick, 2 different grades of sandpaper that get in parts that I'm whittling on that I can't get otherwise. Twisting the blade, it kind of takes out the shavings that I want to get rid of, and it ends up a little bit rough in here, but then the sandpaper will take care of that.
I love meeting the different artists and visiting with them and their experiences and stories. What do you think your experience is like coming here to the Artist Hub? What do you think about having this here in Pelican Rapids?
It's community. It's fabulous. It's a way to share, learn, grow for everybody. And for me, it helps me get me out of my studio and keeps me from being such a hermit. I get new ideas by everything that I see. Anybody that I talk to, if they do something a certain way, then that sparks something for me. And likewise, I love sharing my ideas with other people.
I love Pelican Rapids, love small town living, and really want to develop a network and arts community here.
Amanda Standalone and the Pastry Shop Girls first met while working at a local bakery. Their music is a powerful mix of blues and rock with a little bit of old-time harmonizing. A welcome treat in today's music world.
Springtime brings us so many things. Well, the flowers blooming and the sun is shining, but the thing that brings the biggest smile is a thing we've been waiting for a little while. And Genevieve, I'd like to welcome you to the world. Genevieve, I'd like to welcome you to the world. Genevieve, I'd like to welcome you to the world. To the world, someday I'll introduce the most beautiful little girl. Springtime brought us so many things. Well, the snow is falling and the river's flooding, but all the while I got to walk around with just the biggest smile, because Genevieve, I got to welcome you to the world. Genevieve, I got to welcome you to the world. Well, Genevieve, I got to welcome you to the world. And to the world, someday I'll introduce the most beautiful little girl. To the world someday I'll introduce the most beautiful little girl. Seems like I've known you for forever. It's more like forever and a day. Sometimes I feel we'll always be together, but then sometimes, well, it don't look that way. 'Cause our love is like the waves of the ocean. You come a crashing and slowly roll away. Our love is like the waves of the ocean. You're here now, but you're never here to stay. Never here to stay, never here to stay, oh. Never here to stay, never here to stay, oh. How it happened, somehow I can't remember it. Just happened, it's what they say. I think you're like a cup of coffee in November. You're something warm on a gray and cloudy day. Our love is like the waves of the ocean. You come a crashing and slowly roll away. Our love is like the waves of the ocean. You're here now, but you're never here to stay. You're never here to stay. You're never here to stay. Oh, never here to stay. You're never here to stay. You're never here to stay. You're never here to stay. Oh, never here to stay. You're never here to stay. 'Cause our love is like the waves of the ocean. You come a crashing, slowly roll away. Our love is like the waves of the ocean. You're here now, but you're never here to stay. With three old crows sitting on a wire. And if I had half the heart of him, I'd set this world on fire. Gotta miss you. But if I had one thing to say, I'd say this to you. A drink till the last drop and sing till every song you sung. 'Cause some old crows die young. We dream of a better world for our daughters and our sons. 'Cause some old crows die young. With three old crows, they're sitting on a wire. One of them flew away and he set our hearts on fire. Gotta miss you. But if I had one thing to say, say this to you. A drink till the last drop and we'll sing till every song you sung.
If you know of an artist, a topic, or an organization in our region that you think might make for an interesting segment, please contact us at prairiemosaic@prairiepublic.org. I'm Barb Gravel.
And I'm Bob Dambach. Thank you for joining us for this edition of Prairie Mosaic.
Prairie Mosaic is funded by the Minnesota Arts and Cultural Heritage Fund with money from the vote of the people of Minnesota on November 4th, 2008. The North Dakota Humanities Council, a nonprofit, independent state partner of the National Endowment for the Humanities. The North Dakota Council on the Arts, and by the members of Prairie Public.